What is up, everybody? Welcome back to It's Called Football. Last week, Jackson and I did a Euros preview because the Euros started for this summer. This week, we now have Jason alongside of us, so hyped for Jason to be part of his. And we're doing Copa America previews because Copa America's gets underway tomorrow, Thursday, June 20th. Starts with Argentina versus Canada. No, Argentina, Peru. And we're
Argentina, Canada.
It is okay.
It's Argentina, Canada. Yeah.
So there. I've been focused on the Euros. This is going to be interesting, but thankfully I got you guys who know what the hell they're doing when it comes to Copa America. So we're going to go through each group, same style as the Euro show. So go through each group, give our predictions, talk about the teams in a bit of detail, go on to the knockout stage, give our predictions for where we think everyone's going to go, who we think the final is going to be. Maybe touch on like golden boot winners, maybe best players, that sort of stuff as well. You boys have any comments or anything before we hop right into this bracket?
Let's hop into it. I'm excited. One day away.
Yes,
One day away from 24/7 football coverage.
Oh, yeah. That's what Jason and I were talking about before we started. It's going to be great having 3 Euro games in the morning and afternoon, right into 2 Copa America matches through the night. Peak football season is upon us. So here we go. We'll get started with Group A, obviously. Got to start at the top. Argentina, Canada, Chile, and Peru. I think it's safe to say we all kind of have the same opinion on who wins this group.
Yeah. Shouldn't even be a question.
I think the reigning World Cup champions, Argentina, will take care of business. If they don't win all 3, if they were even to draw, that's a surprise.
They should win all 3.
Yeah.
Comfortably.
Absolutely. I mean, Jason, I'll come to you. What do you think of do you think Argentina has any flaws at all in this group?
I mean, when I'm looking at it, it's always still could be a little stronger defensively. I feel like that's always what you say when you look at other teams and the defenders that they have, not just in South America, but, in Europe and places like that. I feel like that's always the one thing that Argentina's kind of been lacking. And they make up for it a lot because of the offensive talent they have. Obviously, Messi, in my opinion, greatest player of all time. You had Di Maria, you had Aguero, you had all these guys for a while. They finally put it together at the World Cup, but I still feel like at times the defending, there's a little bit more to be desired. Now, I think Romero is a good player, Tagliafico. There are players who can get it done. And obviously, Emi Martinez, when he plays for Argentina, is absolutely unbelievable. But I think if there's going to be any downfall for this Argentina team, in my opinion, it's going to be defensively. Because you look at the midfield, you see Ezequiel Palacios, Rodrigo de Paul, Paredes, you see McAllister, and then obviously in the attack, we just mentioned some players. And then you have Julian Alvarez as well, Lautaro Martinez, who's been unbelievable in Serie A. So they're incredibly strong in those positions. So I think if there is one weakness, it's defensively, but it's not really that dire of a situation. It's just that they could be stronger there, just like the rest of the field is for them.
Absolutely. Jason, you think similar stuff, or do you see something else maybe being the issue for Argentina?
Not much. I agree with him. I mean, defensively, like you said, Emi is always going to be lights out. And then compared to the other teams, the biggest threat, I guess, attacking threat in this group would be, even though Davies is a left back, he'll probably be playing at the left winger for Canada like he has in the past. But just there's no attacking threat, at least in this group. Obviously, in the knockout rounds, it's going to be a lot different. But in this group, just Alphonso Davies, maybe Jonathan David would be the hardest attackers we'll have to face. But besides that, they could have more depth for better players in the defense. But no, there's no one, at least in this group, I see them at least getting maybe 1 goal past them. And that's going to be very lucky, or when they could really secure the group.
Yeah.
It is interesting, but Davies will be playing left back, basically, because it looks like Jesse Marsch likes Liam Miller playing in that spot. So they're not even going to have to worry about him just running at him. Yeah, I know. I see Jesse Marsch. I see your face go up there. But I saw the face. But, yeah, it looks like he's going to be playing left back and Liam Miller is going to be playing in front of him. So maybe overlapping opportunities, but like you said, shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, and I mean, he can still, even coming from that left back position, he can still make the runs up the field. because he knows he has the pace to get back and chase people down. Messi's not as fast as he used to be, so he can definitely kind of get back and chase them down. But hey, I think we're all on board. Argentina wins 3 out of 3. Now the next question, and I'll start out with you, Jason. Who do you think is the second best team in this group? Like, who do you think? Because to me, Canada, Chile, and Peru, there's not a lot separating them.
Yeah. Actually, in my prediction, how Group A is now, that's actually how I have the group heading into the knockarounds. I do see Canada proceeding to the quarterfinals. Like Peru, to me, even though I cover them, I think their most notable player, I think he was a Feyenoord, but I think he's a backup. But besides that, I don't see them. I see Peru at the bottom going winless. Chile would be the other one, but I'm blanking out right now. But yeah, I just don't see any but player. I can check. I can check my. Sorry to bother, but
No, don't.
the team right here. But I just see Jonathan David. He had a good season in League One, and Davies again getting the move to seems to be Madrid. But Chile, yeah, they don't have anybody from the quick glance I'm doing here. They have one. Yeah, Alexis Sanchez is not the same player as he was when he was in Arsenal. So I just don't see them doing well.
Yeah.
I'm kind of. That's my take on them. Canada seem first.
I'm kind of with you. I think like the thing that Canada has against both Peru and Chile is they have some youth on your side. Claudio Bravo for Chile, he's 41. Alexis Sanchez, you brought him up, he's 35. Eduardo Vargas is 34. Then you look at Peru and their captain and arguably like their best ever player, at least in the recent years, is Paulo Guerrero. He's 40. They have a whole lot of other mid-30s, late 30s guys, whereas Canada is young, fast, and will make this a living hell for these South American sides. I'm curious to see what happens, but like, I still think the issue with Canada and Jackson will. You already know kind of where I'm going with this is Jesse Marsch. I do not trust Jesse Marsch as the manager of any team, let alone a national team. Canada hasn't looked as good recently since bringing in Jesse Marsch. They won one game this year. Sure, their other two were against the Netherlands, against France. They lost to Jamaica in the Nations League quarterfinal after beating them 2-1 in the first leg. They lost to Japan. They drew with the U.S. They drew with Guatemala and Guadeloupe last year. There might be a little different team, but like that's in a legitimate tournament. That was in the CONCACAF Gold Cup. So one of those things that just worries me that they haven't been playing well, and they could have their entire morale knocked down immediately against Argentina if that gets out of hand too quickly.
I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to do what he wants to do because he just took over the job May 13th. And like you said, it's Jesse Marsch. So I don't know how to feel about this. I mean, they had a really good friendly result against France. Don't get me wrong, 0-0 right before. And they kind of got lucky a little bit with this draw. Not because of Argentina. Obviously, Argentina should run through this. I expect them to win by multiple goals tomorrow. But Peru's on the bottom, at the very bottom of the CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying standings right now. They only have 2 points after 6 games. They have not looked good at all. And Chile's not much better. They're in 8th with 5 points. And I think Chile's better than Peru. I mean, they beat them earlier in qualifying, but it just feels like a very doable group. And as much as I want to say Canada, though, I just don't know. I know you hate Jesse Marsch a lot more than I do. I'll always root for the guy because he's American. But I just don't know if he's got it in him to get through this, you know? I think they'll beat Peru, but I think it's a toss-up between Chile and Canada. I'm going to lean Canada just because I think they do have better players at this point in time. They've got a stronger group. Obviously, Davies at left back, phenomenal. I think he's the best player in CONCACAF. And then you have Jonathan David up top. You've got good players. Yes, Eustachio as well. Like, you've got good players on the Canadian side. When they're at the World Cup, though, they went in really good form and just shit the bed. You know, so it's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to go CONCACAF and agree with this right here. I like this. I like Argentina, Canada, Chile, and Peru, but I think Chile and Canada, it's going to be close, and it really just depends on what Canada team shows up. And I don't have confidence in Jesse Marsh either. I really don't. So we'll see what happens, but I think we stick with this.
Yeah, I'm kind of just leaning towards Chile a little bit, solely because I think this guy can be the difference maker for them. I'm sure we've talked about in the past. It's been Alexis Sanchez. It's been who's their forward? Who's their? Why am I blanking? They had another impressive forward. Oh, I was a midfielder, Vidal.
Arturo Vidal, yeah.
Arturo Vidal as well. I think Brereton Diaz can cause some issues. I think he could. I can't take myself to pick for Jesse Marsh. It doesn't matter. It's already 2-1 in favor of Canada. So Canada in our bracket is going to go through. I think it'll be a little closer than expected. I do agree Peru's the bottom, but I'm going to take Chile just for moral sake. So, but hey, we got it. Jason, you agree like it's how you have it, how it is on the screen with Peru finishing bottom?
Exactly the same. No changes.
Easy enough. That makes Group A relatively straightforward.
Don't have to do anything.
Yeah. Alphabetical order always.
Let's go.
So we'll move on to Group B, and this is an intriguing group.
Alphabetical order.
I think that's how this is all set up on this website. It's Ecuador, Jamaica, Mexico, and Venezuela. Jason, I'll let you kick this off as you're the Mexico fan. How do you think Mexico does in this group, and kind of what is your outlook at this Group B?
All I say is, wow, they're not the best team in this whole competition. I still see Mexico finishing first in the group. I just don't see Venezuela beating them. Venezuela at the bottom. Jamaica, while they do have good players, they're going to miss Leon Bailey, who is their most notable player and probably their best player, considering how he did in the Premier League this season. Ecuador, probably the next, will probably be the hardest matchup, considering they have Caicedo in the midfield, and even though Chelsea has been up and down season with them, he's still one of probably the best player in this group. Mexico, when I wrote the preview for them, they had their starting keeper for Club America, Luis Malagon there. He got injured, and now they're going to replace him. Still questionable call-ups. Looking at reports from the Mexican media, they're going to have 2 questionable players. It's just, oh my God. They're going to have, oh my God, continue to call up Antuna, calling up Alvarado, calling up Luis Romo, Charlie Rodriguez. These are players who do not need to be called up. And for some reason, 2 of those players are going to start. You have Julian Araujo at right back, who's going to be playing with Barcelona next season. Had a good season with Palmas. He's not called up at all. Jaime Lozano, still questionable as a coach. Yeah, you did good against Bolivia, but that's against Bolivia. Losing 4-0 to Uruguay, not gonna terrible result, even though that wasn't their strongest team. 2-3 against Brazil's B team or C team, but still a good result. It's just so much wrong with the team, from the federation to the players and starting players to the manager. I just don't see, like we were talking, Jerry, before, I just don't see Mexico winning it or going that far, but I still see them at least winning the group. That's the best result I have for them, just winning the group.
I can see that. And Jackson, I'll let you go next, but I just want to say, like, the talent that Mexico is leaving at home it's absurd. And this has seemed like, because we've talked many times, Jackson, on the show about the state of U.S. football compared to the state of Mexican football, and it's night and day. Like, it's become so one-sided, and I think it's a lot to do with what Jason was saying about there's a little too much involved with it, and they're just leaving the players they should have at home. But nonetheless, Jackson, do you think Mexico finishes top of this group?
I don't.
Okay.
I really it's not to hate on Mexico. Ecuador and Venezuela are actually pretty good, impressive form right now. And I don't think Mexico is not going to get out of the group. I think Mexico is going to get out of the group. But right now, I mean, what were these standings right here? Venezuela is in 4th in World Cup qualifying. Ecuador is in 5th. Venezuela tied Brazil. Ecuador beat Uruguay. I mean, these are good teams. Now, I think it's going to be an advantage playing in the U.S., obviously. You're going to have all the Mexican fans there. And I think that's why they're still going to get through the group. But I like a lot of the talent I see, especially on the Ecuador side of things. I mean, anytime you play against Enner Valencia, you got to watch every aerial ball, every rebound, is just going to go to him, and he's going to pounce and he's going to score. So I think that's always got to be a concern. And they also have Moise Caicedo. They've got other players like Sarmiento, who I think is a pretty good player. I mean, William Pacho, the youngster at Eintracht Frankfurt, and Hingapi at Bayer Leverkusen. Like, they've got good players in defense, midfield, and attack as well. So I'm actually backing Ecuador to win this group. Now, I think Mexico will get second. I don't think it'll be far off. I think they'll definitely finish ahead of Venezuela, but it's going to be tough because this Venezuela team's in pretty good form as well. But I just don't think Venezuela's got enough to beat Mexico, especially in the U.S., where you're going to have all the fans and all that stuff. And Jamaica, they've got some decent players. Obviously the Leon Bailey situation, always got some drama with him. He's as good as he is, he's their best player. He's an absolute cancer. So I don't even know if it's a problem or if it's going to benefit them, but they still have very good players. I just don't think they'll put it together, especially in this. I think they'll probably finish bottom. But in my opinion, it's going to go Ecuador, Mexico, Venezuela, and Jamaica. Could be wrong. Mexico could win the group. Wouldn't be shocked at all if they did. I just think Mexico made some crazy decisions with the players that they're bringing in for this tournament. I think the Julian Araujo omission is the craziest one of the craziest ones I saw. And I think they're going to struggle because of it. Going to get out of the group, but I don't think it's going to be easy. It's going to be labored, and I think Ecuador is going to take the group. I think they'll get 2 wins at least in this group stage and come out on top in Group B.
See, I see it being a toss-up between those two. I think it's safe to say Jamaica and Venezuela are the 2 weakest teams in this group, and I do think Jamaica will finish bottom, Venezuela will finish third. Jamaica just has some other guys that could step up, but I just don't really see it happening. Ecuador and Mexico is where it's a toss-up. And I think maybe on paper, on talent alone, Ecuador might have that advantage, but it's the fact of where they're going to be playing these games, who the fan base is going to be. And it's, Mexico is going to make it a loud and proud crowd anywhere they play. They're in Houston, SoFi Stadium in LA, then against Glendale, Arizona. I went to a Mexico game in Arizona when I was at school there. Such a loud atmosphere, better atmosphere than I'd seen for any U.S. game down there. So it's going to be tough, and that's where they play Ecuador, and that's the last match of the group stage is Mexico-Ecuador. I think Mexico will have enough to, even if it ends in a draw, I think they'll have done enough in the group or in the first 2 matches to come out with a goal differential lead. Just because I think Ecuador might falter briefly and give up 1-2 extra goal against like a Venezuela side, or give up a goal against Jamaica when they're up 2-0 sort of thing. And that could be the difference maker. So that being said, I'm going to say move this bracket around because it was 2-1 Mexico, and then Jamaica goes to the bottom, Venezuela third. Either way, no matter how we look at it, we have all the same 2 teams going through. I think it's very much a coin toss. I just think it comes down to what happens in those first 2 matches for both Ecuador and Mexico. Now time for America's group. Bolivia, Panama, Uruguay, and the United States. Jackson, I'll let you kick this one off since you are repping Team USA. Who do you think – I'll start at the opposite end. Who do you think finishes bottom of this group? And do you think it's clear-cut as it's going to be Bolivia and Panama, or is it like one of those teams going to contend? Because I don't have my opinions.
I think it's competitive between these 2, actually. I really do. I mean, Bolivia, at least in my lifetime of being a soccer fan, has always kind of been a bottom feeder in CONMEBOL. Obviously, it was different back in the day. They won a couple Copas, all that stuff, but that was back then. This is now. The team they have now doesn't really have a lot. I mean, you're looking at their roster, it's mostly players playing in Bolivia. I mean, you've got 2 forwards playing for the Strongest. That's the team name in Bolivia. And then Yeah. You got a Barca B player, a guy playing in Switzerland, Santos, young player, and Miguel Terceros. It's not the strongest looking roster that you'll ever find. And then you look at someone like Panama, kind of in a similar situation. You've got some MLS guys. I think Annabelle Godoy is a good player. He's 34, experienced, plays for Nashville. They just they don't really have a lot. I think this one will actually be pretty tight, though. I think a lot of people will be inclined to go South American side. I'm going to back the CONCACAF side here. I'm actually going to back Panama to come out ahead of Bolivia. Now, they're not going to get top two. There's no shot in hell. But I do think they will finish ahead. And I don't think it'll be because they necessarily beat Bolivia. I think it's going to be because they lose less badly to the other teams in this group than Bolivia. That's my opinion. Now, it could be completely wrong because they do have experience playing Uruguay. And if anyone's going to win the group, it's likely going to be Uruguay. We'll get to that in a second. And they're going to be the ones to put up goals. So they might just run it up on Panama. And that might give Bolivia the third place rather than Panama. But I'm going to back CONCACAF here. I like Panama's squad just a little bit more than Bolivia's, to be completely honest. Something about playing in the CONCACAF region. I'm going to give Panama the benefit of the doubt and give them third, but I think it's a toss-up. And it really just depends on how much Uruguay puts past these two teams, I think.
Jason, your thoughts on, do you think it's kind of similar thing where it's going to be very tight between these two? Or
I actually see Bolivia at the bottom of the group, mainly because when Mexico played to prepare for the Copa América, it was Mexico's U23 team. And it was against all the Bolivian starters.
Yeah.
That's why. And putting up, I think it was 3 goals, if I can't remember off the top of my head. That's the reason why. A lot of these players, U23, while only 2 players should have been called up to the first team, in my opinion. The rest of them playing for bottom teams back in Mexico. That's the only reason why. And Panama played against Mexico, the first Mexican team in the Gold Cup final. Took them down to the last 10 minutes for Mexico to win against them. And then when they played against the United States and I think they played in Jamaica in the Gold Cup in the Nations League, they put up some impressive performances. So that's the reason why, just because past performances for Panama seem more uplifting than anything Bolivia's done in the past.
Yeah, I'm completely with you both. I think Bolivia's biggest advantage they have is playing at home in La Paz, where you're miles and miles and miles up. The altitude's a major issue. With that being said, they've won 2 games in the last 2 since the beginning of 23. They beat Peru in qualifying. Peru's bottom, and then they beat Andorra, and it's Andorra. Don't want to bash them as anything, but they are not a good team. They are not really capable of winning anything, and that was in just some random match. Then you see them play like Ecuador. They lose 3-1 in a build-up. Mexico, they lost 1-0. Colombia, they lost 3-0. They're getting battered left and right, and I think that's kind of going to be a staple where they're not at home. They don't have the altitude playing in their advantage this time, so it's going to be a real hindrance. And I think Panama has enough experience playing in major tournaments to really have a good say and good chance at doing something here. I'll bounce over to you, Jason, because it seems like we are all in agreement that Bolivia finishes bottom, Panama second bottom. Oh, it's the wrong team. Then we have U.S. and Uruguay. Jason, who do you think wins this group?
How it is on the screen, I see Uruguay being the first and then USA being second. I just don't see especially having Greg back managing the team. I seen a stat he's just terrible against teams that are in the FIFA rankings better than USA, and they don't pull out the results. But again, having Nunes, he looked good against Mexico, having the hat trick. I forget his name, Benziker, playing with Tottenham, still rough defender. He's gonna get some good tackles in on the USA attack. And then USA again, like I said, having Berhalter, Pulisic had a good season with Milan. And then I just don't see. It depends who's in the back line, because even though Tim Reams is doing good, I just don't see him being the same one. Give Chris Richards the chance to Chris Richards and whoever you're going to pair him with to replace Reams, and then having Weah. Well, this is what his first goal for the USA national team since he started playing for them.
Nice. He scored in the World Cup too.
Did he? I'm thinking of someone else. One player. He scored his first ever goal, and despite having like 20, 30 caps. But yeah, I just don't see. And who's the?
Was that? That might have
Is
been
it going to be Pep? Is it going to be Pepe or?
I think Balogun's going to start. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think Balogun with Monaco, he didn't have that great of a season, did he? Just average performances.
No.
Yeah. So unless you have Pepe playing in the Eredivisie with PSV, but he was playing behind Luke de Jong the entire time. But yeah, just mainly the 9 and whoever's going to playing in the back, because also they don't have Best anymore. So whoever's going to be replacing him at either left back or right back. I'm sorry, he plays left back with PSV. So yeah, I just don't see. Uruguay should be the clear winner in this group, and USA is going to be better than Panama and Bolivia. So that's how I have it.
Yeah, Jackson, your thoughts? Do you think? Do you agree? Because I know I have my opinion. I'll speak quick. I think Uruguay's attack and midfield are far superior than the U.S. is. Christian Pulisic is different. We saw his goal against Brazil, but I just think like there's enough raw talent, and for some reason, Darwin Nunez, when he plays for Uruguay, actually puts away his chances, unlike Darwin Nunez that plays for Liverpool. When you got Bentancur, and I think the most underrated player on this team will be Federico Valverde in the midfield. I think he is going to be an issue for teams throughout the entire tournament. Then you look at the defense, and it's like Jose Gimenez at Atletico, Ronald Araujo, Barcelona, and I just have a solid team. But Jackson, your thoughts on the winner of this group?
Yeah, I think if U.S. and Uruguay play 10 times, Uruguay comes out on top in 7 of them.
Yep.
I think that's just how it's going to happen. And realistically, Tim Ream's going to start. You want his experience. You want his composure on the ball. But you're giving something up when you do that. You're giving up pace. And what Darwin Nunez has is absolute blistering pace. He will get in behind. And like you said, he scores goals for Uruguay. Something about playing for Bielsa, it just brings the best out in him. It really does. I mean, Bielsa's that kind of manager. I mean, he's getting the best out of him. He scored a hat trick against Mexico just a few weeks ago. This Uruguay team is just they're just better. When you look at Jose Gimenez as their center back, unbelievable defender. It's going to be hard to beat him. I forget who he's paired with. I think it's Oliveira off the top of my head as well. Yeah. Those two together, unbelievable center back partnership, I think, especially when you're looking at this tournament, one of the best you'll find. I think Ugarte in the midfield, unbelievable player. You just have a lot of talent on this Uruguay side that, sure, the U.S. has some good players. I think Pulisic, obviously, you always got to watch him to do something. He's in really good form. And when he plays for the U.S., he always seems to come up with big moments, big goals. But I think just defensively not going to be enough. Goalkeeping, I think Turner is a phenomenal shot stopper. But he's just so shaky on the ball in key moments. And that might be what causes the U.S.'s downfall, to be completely honest. He might give the ball away. U.S. gets countered quickly. We saw that with the first goal against Brazil. It is a very serious possibility. And Joe Scally, even though everyone was hyping him up for his performance against Brazil, I don't even think he played fine, but he didn't pocket Vinny Jr. Let's just be clear on this. Vinny Jr. had an unbelievable amount of chances. He just wasn't scoring them. Turner was making saves, and Vinny wasn't putting them away. He had one on the doorstep that I can't believe he missed. It was the craziest miss I've ever seen. It was way harder to miss than score. He wasn't pocketed. So Scally's a good player, but he's definitely vulnerable. He has shown that before where he can get cooked. He's still a relatively young defender. I mean, he's younger than I am. So, I think the U.S. can show up and win this group. I just don't see it happening. I think Uruguay's in fine form. They're second place right now in the CONMEBOL standings. They've got a guy up front who, when he plays for Uruguay, puts goals away. And the U.S. has shown that they'll leak goals. So I think that'll happen in this. I think Nunez gets a couple chances against the U.S. they win that game, they win the group. U.S. gets second, but yeah, Uruguay wins it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just going right off of what you just said, U.S. Sure, they got a draw against Brazil. They gave up 12 shots on target, 25 shots total. They lost the possession battle 61 pretty much to 39. It was so one-sided that it was kind of, like you said, remarkable that Vinny Jr. missed the opportunities he did. That game, I think, gets played 10 times. I think Brazil wins 9 of them, personally. Maybe even all 10. It's just one of those things. But what concerns me for the U.S. is you look at the match they played before. You're playing a Colombia side that, in my opinion, isn't anything special. Sure, they have some talent, but it's nowhere near the levels at times of like Brazil, Argentina's, Uruguay's, and the U.S. still lost 5-1. That's what concerns me is there's a chance that type of U.S. team shows up where even in that one, this is the thing of Matt Turner, which is what we've discussed so much this year during his time at Nottingham Forest, is against Brazil, he has 11 saves on 12 shots. Against Colombia, he has one save on 6 shots on target. That's going to be the difference, and that's where I think like Uruguay's a little better side. Luis Suarez is back. I don't even know if he's going to play much, but that just brings an extra level of like support and veteran leadership. So I'm giving Uruguay to win that group. Leaves us with Group D. I think it's safe to say we all know who wins this group. Paraguay.
Of course.
Yep. 100%. No. Brazil.
I'm actually going to disagree.
Really?
I'm going to disagree. I don't like this Brazil team.
Okay.
I really don't. And you look at the CONMEBOL World Cup standings through 6 games right now. They're in 6th place. They only have 7 points. Try 1-1 with a U.S. team that just got battered by a Colombia side. I mean, what Ronaldinho said was incredibly harsh, and he just did it for clickbait, but there is some truth to it. This is just not quite the same Brazil team that we've seen in the past. It's not quite as strong. And Colombia, even though they don't have as flashy of a roster as other teams, they don't have all these guys playing in like, Europe's top 5 leagues and these great teams. They play more like a team than how Brazil is playing right now. And there's a reason they're unbeaten in 23 games. Like that's not a fluke. There's a reason. And I could see Colombia winning this group. I really could. Brazil seems rather self-destructive at times when I watch them right now. And I don't get great vibes from their camp right now, to be completely honest. Colombia, though, they just have this kind of cohesiveness that I feel like is lacking with Brazil. Now, if you go just straight where these players are playing an individual talent, I'm take Brazil any day. I don't think it's a fluke that Colombia has won 23 games in a row. Could all be for naught, and they could come in and Brazil just absolutely waxes them. Brazil's obviously always going to be one of the favorites. They always are going to be a team that you think can make the final of this tournament, if not win it every single time. I'm going to back Colombia here. You guys probably going to disagree with me, but I like this Colombia team.
Hell yeah. That's very fair. I just think that's kind of my thoughts. Like, I don't know. But it's like Colombia is damn good. And it seems like it's the same core of players that they've had for the last 5-6 years, with James Rodriguez leading the way. And something about him playing for Colombia does get the best out of him. I just think at the end of the day, Brazil, and say they do draw with Colombia, whatever that may happen, whatever happens, happens. That's the last game of the group stage. Both teams might already be through by then. I think they both batter Paraguay and Costa Rica. It's just all it takes is that one game where everything clicks for Brazil and suddenly they're flying and looking like a Brazil team that we know they can play like, especially in that attack, whether it's Endrick, Rodrigo, Rafinha, Vinny. The whole midfield is superb as well at times. It's just that maybe there is too much attitude. Maybe there's too much, I need to do this. I need to put the team on my back. There's no Neymar to do that anymore. So it is going to be one of those big things, but I'm still back in Brazil. Jason, your thoughts?
I just see exactly like you said, Jerry. I see Brazil winning the group. Yeah, like even though, like you said, individual talent at club, yeah, I still think even like Brazil's B and C teams could be a lot of these groups' first teams. I just don't see them winning. I don't see them. Sorry, I don't see them losing. If anything, they can tie against Colombia. I don't see them essentially when they face each other losing. But yeah, just having, Finney on gonna win the Ballon d'Or most likely. But you should have all the talent, all well-rounded roster. Um, just nothing else. I mean, you have Colombia. They have John Duran. He, as a Villa fan, he's kind of hot-headed, and he's the main striker heading into the tournament. I mean, yeah, he can score, but and considering what's happening right now and his transfer rumors to Chelsea, I just see he leaves Duran in the right headspace heading into the tournament. And then having Luis Diaz, probably the most notable player for Colombia. I could make a joke, but like if his dad is going to be in the crowd again after recently it happened, I think Luis Diaz can put up a good performance, but not enough to like stun this Brazil team.
That's tough. That's a tough one.
That's funny.
That's a tough one.
But yeah, like, hey, I love the point you brought up about John Duran. The only thing worse than messing up and losing a group stage game is going to this Chelsea team. And the pressure of going there might just have him in a bad mental state as it is. Also, like, it's just – I see some talented players looking at the lineup, but it seems like I don't know if it's going to be enough to – I don't think they have enough of a goal-scoring prowess to win early games against Costa Rica and Paraguay like 4-0 or 5-0. I think Brazil can do that. They just need to hit their game. Sure, they did do that against the U.S., but like
I think that was a fluke. I will say that. No, Colombia's a better team in terms of how they play, but yeah, that was a fluke.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not going to see Matt Turner save one of the 6 shots on target. That doesn't just happen. That was just a game Colombia got hot and kept going. So it's like I think these two run away with it. I think these two win both their first games and then or the first 2 matches. Then whatever happens in the next one, I can see it very well being a draw. I just have a feeling that Colombia might not win by as much against Costa Rica and Paraguay as Brazil will.
Yeah. One more case for Colombia. They beat Brazil 2-1 in November, beat Spain in Spain 1-0 in March, beat Romania 3-2, beat Germany. Obviously, that Germany team's a little different than this Germany team now, but they've been beating good teams. I could be wrong, but I'm liking them.
That is a very valid point. I'm sticking with my gut here, but Colombia is going to be tough. They're a second place team I would not want to play because as it lines up, and as you'll see going into the knockout stage when we get to that, Group C and Group D plays each other. That's going to be very tough, and that's the thing is the way this bracket's made is, in my opinion, really stupid. In terms of how it's one side of it is all the Group A and Group B first and second teams, then the other side is Group C and Group D. I would have loved to see like how they do in the World Cup where it's kind of all mixed up. So you can't play the same team from your group before the final. I like that style, but it is what it is. Jason, I'll go on to you. Costa Rica, Paraguay, who do you think has the advantage there?
I see Paraguay having the advantage. Even though he didn't have as good as a season as he did with Newcastle, I still see Almiron being the best player heading into the tournament. Costa Rica, if I remember, they're CONCACAF, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't do much at the Gold Cup. They didn't do much at the Nations League. I think they're in Group B in the Nations League, if I remember correct. Or they got relegated down. But Paraguay, I mean, who's their manager? Who did they hire? I forgot. It was a notable
Paraguay.
Forgetting who they have.
They have.
Yeah.
He played for the Argentina national team.
Yeah, Daniel Garnano.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just I don't see much. I mean, obviously Brazil, Colombia are going to win, but last 2 out, they're not going to matter as much.
Yeah. Kind of agree with you there. I think it's kind of a coin toss. I will lean Costa Rica maybe just because they've been in, it feels like more World Cups, but I can't say that with any doubt of certainty. I know nothing about either of these teams.
Yeah, it's easier to make the World Cup though when you're up here rather than down there.
That's
a lot
true.
easier. But I'm gonna go Paraguay. Slightly better players. This Costa Rica team they're kind of going not through like a dark stage per se, but they're not quite they lost that core group that they had. All they have really left from that is Joel Campbell. If he wants to do something, he can. And obviously, I mean, Keylor Navas is still kicking around, but I don't think he's not even going to this. So like it's gotta be Paraguay in my opinion. They're not a very strong team. Almiron's back in the US, so I think he'll do bits. There's talk about Julio Enciso at Brighton as a good player, and then I think Ramon Sosa Talleres is getting looks overseas as well. They've got some decent attacking players. I think they've just got a slightly better squad than Costa Rica.
Fair enough. So there we have it. Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica, Paraguay. As we are doing this kind of like 2-3 vote or 2-1 vote. So there we have it. We've gotten through the group stage. I want to say one thing before I move on, just because we're going to talk about Mexico briefly, and you brought up who was Costa Rica, Keylor Navas, and how he's not there. I'm so sad that Ochoa is not going to the Copa America. There was nothing like watching Ochoa. I know he's 40, 42 at this point in his career, but there's nothing like watching him when he was in the World Cup and during his peak of that play. It was awesome.
Hey, 10 years ago, that was the day against Brazil. 10 years ago on this day.
Really? When he stood on his head?
Yeah.
God, I can't believe that World Cup was 10 years ago.
Isn't that crazy? A decade ago.
That was something that's even crazier. Like, I remember South Africa watching that World Cup and all the fun around it. And that's 14 years ago now.
It's absurd to think about.
Well, I'll be damned. All right. Moving back to this. Knockout stage. We'll start at the top, work our way down, because it will be, as I said earlier, winner of Group A will take on the runner-up of Group B. We had Argentina winning the group with Ecuador finishing second. Argentina wins this one easily.
Yeah, they should. I don't know about easily, but they'll win.
Jason, you think the same?
Same thing. Yeah, like you said, they should win. I see Ecuador putting a bit of a fight, but at the end, Argentina gonna win it.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think Ecuador can make it interesting, but at the end of the day, Argentina is the defending World Cup champions for a reason. They have so much talent. As long as Messi's still walking, they have a chance to win anything they're playing. And I just think they get it done easily. I think it would be harder for them to play the likes of maybe Mexico, if Mexico was to finish runner-up in the group, solely because of maybe that like home field advantage. But at the same time, Messi's in Miami now, and everyone in Florida is a Argentinian fan.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Mexico, Canada. Jason, I'll let you kick this one off. Your thoughts on this game, and who would you predict to get out of this one?
I see it being this one actually close. I see it being 1-0 or 2-1. I see Mexico winning in the end. Yeah, I see, if anything, Jonathan David scoring on Mexico. It's just that the center pairing between Cesar Montes and Johan Vasquez is going to be really, even though Johan had a good season in Serie A, I don't see them trying to, clamp down on Jonathan David. And then again, like you mentioned, Davies at the end could make the run from the left back spot, and Mexico's right side having Antuna, and the right back having either Jorge Sanchez or Israel Reyes trying to get him. I just don't see it happening. But at the end of the day, I just think besides Davies, I don't see Alistair Johnson doing much for Canada. I still think Mexico's attack having from the leagues, it seems, having Eric Sanchez, Julian Quinones, and having Santi Jimenez, who's hopefully going to have a good chance for this upcoming summer window. I just see them putting on the pressure. Edson Alvarez, I think he's going to at least hold down the midfield for the most part. Luis Chavez, he did fine in Russia his first season. He's going to be our creative guy up there. And plus, every time Luis Chavez is on a free kick, he tends to score it. So I see it being 2-1 Mexico, and they go into the semifinal.
Jackson?
I think this will be a tight game. And I'm not going to lie, just looking at individual players, I think Canada has a higher top than Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I think Mexico is going to have a better team. I think they're going to have a better dynamic, and they don't have Jesse Marsch as their head coach, which I just don't think Marsch is going to be a good international coach. I'm not as big a hater as you are, but I just don't think his style of managing is really going to translate as well to the international stage, which is just press like a dumbass and get countered and just get murdered. I don't know how I feel about that. David up top, always got to watch him. Laren's a good player as well. I think Canada's got the better outside backs here. It's Mexico, though. It's Mexico in the U.S. Canada's had good results against them recently. It's hard to go against Mexico in the U.S. against another CONCACAF team that isn't the U.S., you know? They're going to have more fans. They're going to have that energy behind them. Now, Canada did beat Mexico, I want to say, 2 Nations Leagues ago in the semifinals. But when they reached the final, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm just – no, the U.S. beat Mexico in the semis. I'm talking about my ass here. But
the last time U.S. and Mexico played was 2021.
Or Canada and Mexico, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Canada and Mexico. And that was World Cup qualifying. Canada. Yeah, and then before that, it was the Gold Cup semifinal where Mexico beat Canada.
Yeah,
that same year in 21. But that's so long ago.
That was when Canada was in ridiculous CONCACAF form.
Oh, yeah.
This is a different Canada team now. I got to back Mexico in this scenario. It's going to be a close game. I could see this going to extra time, to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mexico is going to find a way to beat Canada. Any other matchup they have in this second round, when you look at all these teams here, I think they would lose to just about every single one, bar maybe Ecuador. But it's because they're playing Canada. I got to lean Mexico, and I feel bad doing that because I played multiple college games against Kyle Hebert, who's at the bottom of the Canada roster for this. Want to see him do well just to act like I'm living vicariously through him. But it's going to be Mexico.
Yep, I'm making that 3 for 3. I just think since the last time they played, which was years ago, Canada has gone downhill and Mexico has gone incrementally uphill. It's but they're getting better. Canada's getting worse. Jesse Marsch is a twat, but I'm taking Canada, Mexico to win this one. I do like your shout. I think this will be extra time or penalties. And if it's penalties, I think Mexico might win relatively easily. I think it's just one of those things that they have more ice in their veins when it comes to something like that. Next one, and I think this is probably the most intriguing game of the quarterfinal matches that we've had predicted. Uruguay-Colombia. I'll start this one out, but it's I'm picking Uruguay. I just love what Bielsa's done with them. I love how Darwin Nunez is playing. I think they just have more talent overall, and they're looking good as a group. But you cannot count this Colombia side out one bit. This Colombia team is dangerous in every aspect. It's just, to me, Uruguay, they've been beating everybody. They beat Brazil. They beat Argentina 2-0 each one. They beat Bolivia, who's in this, beat Chile. The only one they didn't beat was Ecuador, and that was kind of one of those really weird matches that, if I remember correctly, that it was nothing went right for Uruguay.
Mm-hmm.
They could not break down the Ecuadorian defense. They did, however, draw with Colombia. So there is some recent history with that, but I'm just leaning Uruguay. I think they just have a little more talent and a little more clinicalness. But if Darwin Nunez plays like he does at Liverpool, then I don't know if Luis Suarez can save you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going Uruguay. And I know I just sang the praise of Colombia earlier about how I think this is a very good team. I still think they're a very good team. I still think that they are very capable of taking on Brazil. I think this Uruguay team, like you said, what Bielsa has them doing right now is very impressive. They're a very dangerous team. Their only loss in qualifying was at Ecuador in a game that it didn't go the way that it probably should have gone. This will be a tight game, don't get me wrong, but I think Uruguay's just got more about him. Nunez, when he plays for Uruguay, he scores goals. And I think they've got a better overall squad than Colombia does. I love the way the Colombians play. Wouldn't be surprised at all if I see Colombia in the semifinals. But this Uruguay team just feels like they have something about them, something really special about them. So I'm riding them in this game 100%. It would be close, but I think Uruguay's overall quality will shine through and they'll get a win. 2-1 is what I would predict.
And I'll also just say this briefly before, Jason, you give us your thoughts on this one. These two teams did play in the 2021 Copa America quarterfinal, and Colombia won that 0-0 on penalties. So Uruguay has a statement to make and some revenge to get. But Jason, if you want to, what do you think happens? You think you're going to hop on board? Are we going to make this a clean sweep, or are you taking Colombia?
Clean sweep. Yeah, both of you took everything I was going to say. Exact same thing.
Easy enough then.
There we go.
We'll let you kick off Brazil in the U.S. then. We just saw them draw 1-1. Do you think it's anything similar to that, or?
I see Brazil winning. Greg Berhalter, every once in a while, he'll get a lucky draw. He'll get a lucky win. So I just don't see it happening again. This time it's an actual competition. It's not a friendly. I see Brazil taking it a lot more serious because it's just a friendly. But here, Brazil, again, as I mentioned, Vinny on his Ballon d'Or season, Rodrigo doing his thing, and then just having, Allison, he could have done better on that free kick, if anything. But besides that, yeah, I just don't see manager for manager, player for player. I just don't see the USA beating them. I see a 2-1 win. I see USA getting lucky after being down 2-0, getting a go with that goal in, but I don't think they can come away with the win.
Yeah. Jackson, you backing the boys, or?
As much as I hear the Eagles screeching in my ear, no, I'm not. I think that it's possible. Don't get me wrong. I think it's possible. And the thing that's going to keep the U.S. in it is getting through the first half without getting scored on. Yeah. If they get scored on early, it's game over. They will not recover. There's no way they will recover. It worked in the friendly because it's a friendly, as Jason said. It's a friendly. And let's be real, Brazil's not caring as much. When we drew that game, I mean, you go on Instagram, people are acting like we just won the damn World Cup. But it was like, it's a friendly match, warming up for the Copa America. Brazil doesn't give a shit. It's possible, and the U.S. did generate chances when they played besides the Pulisic free kick. Obviously, Pulisic had a chance, hit the frame, but no, Brazil is going to win this game. It's their region. This is their region's tournament, and they're Brazil. They might not be as strong of a Brazil as we've seen recently. They don't have Neymar. They don't have Casemiro. They don't have Thiago Silva. Big deal. They'll win this game. They're better than the U.S. They should take care of business. I hope the U.S. can put up a fight if this happens. And by the way, the U.S. got kind of screwed with this draw because first or second place, you're playing either Colombia or Brazil. I mean, either way, I think the U.S. loses in the quarterfinals. Straight up. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think the U.S. beats either of those two teams. They're especially not beating Brazil. And Brazil's going to be pissed off because of the friendly. I mean, the friendly got Ronaldinho to say, I'm not going to even watch you. They're pissed. They've got something to prove. They go into that game, they're going to be like, let's go fuck these guys up. And I think that's what they'll do. 3-1, I think. I don't think it gets any better than that for the U.S. realistically.
I'm with you. I think this one's a comfortable win for Brazil. They will have a statement to make. And because like you said, U.S. fans on Twitter and even people I've talked to are like, oh my God, we drew with Brazil. Maybe we are legit. Maybe we have a chance in this. Bro, slow your roll down. Know your place. You're not beating Brazil in a meaningful match. Yeah, clean sweep. Give me an Endrick goal as well.
Off the bench.
Off the bench. It'll be a
Barely
super,
game.
it'll be a super sub to make it 3-0. To the semifinals we go. Argentina, Mexico, Uruguay, Brazil. Whoever wants to start for the Argentina, Mexico one, feel free. I do.
There you go, Jason.
As much as I want to say they go into the final, they just won't. Argentina, vastly superior in every single place, every single position against Mexico. This is where Mexico, this is where they need to show why they need more players in Europe so they can develop them. Because currently playing in notable leagues, I think it's actually just Edson. Oh no, Edson and Johan. They play in the Prem and Serie A. Only two players that play in a notable league in Europe. Argentina, top to bottom, almost every player is going to play in Europe and the top 5 league. And then Mexico, I just don't see. I see the same thing happening in the World Cup. When they played each other in the group stage, I just see Messi hitting another goal, and I just questionable again. Like I said, mentioned earlier, questionable call-ups. I just don't see like if they're gonna have Romo, if they're gonna have Antuna playing, it's already game over. Those players shouldn't be called up, and you have them playing against starting. I see Mexico losing this game 3-0. Sadly, I'm gonna accept the truth. They're just not as good. They're lucky to place in such, I guess, a weaker group and be able to get this far. But I just don't see them against Argentina. There's more flaws for Mexico than there is, I guess, Argentina having their pros, I guess you can say.
Yeah, I think you summed that up pretty well. Argentina is better than Mexico in every aspect, on the field, managerial side of things. The only thing that I'll say Mexico has that Argentina doesn't is Mexico's best player plays in the top 5 league in Europe. Argentina's does not.
Oh, grow up.
I just wanted to give that jab, but no, it doesn't matter. Messi could be playing in the Saudi Pro League with Ronaldo for all I care.
Mm-hmm.
It's Argentina, not even close.
Yeah, they're going to wipe them. No offense to Mexico, but first of all, this draw was designed beautifully by the fine folks at CONMEBOL to get Argentina. Yeah, crazy, right? To get Argentina a pretty decently easy way to the final. Mexico, we have them here, but they're only here because of who they're playing. They got to play Canada in the quarterfinals based off our predictions. As soon as you go up against Messi, you go up against Di Maria, you go up against McAllister, you go up against Rodrigo de Paul, you go up against all these players who are, and not just a little bit, a lot better than what Mexico has. And this isn't a dig at all saying Mexico's terrible. I mean, Argentina goes up against the U.S. I think it's probably going to be the same story. I think Argentina just wipes them. 3-4-0. Easy walk through to the final. Early goals, and it just keeps coming. Messi has to get one because he's playing in the U.S. This is one where I don't know if Mexico is going to have as big of an advantage either, just because they're playing Messi. It's in the U.S. Everyone's going to clamor to him. As soon as the U.S. loses, all the USMNT fans are suddenly going to become Messi fans of this game too. So, I just don't see anything going Mexico's way in this game. Argentina wins this, and they win it comfortably.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. This one's not even a question. Now, this one is, though. Do we get a rematch? And I'll let you start this one out, Jackson. Do we get a rematch of the 2021 final with Brazil and Argentina? And like you said, how this is lined up perfectly for Argentina to make the final. It's also lined up a little more difficult, but it still lines us up perfectly for a Brazil-Argentina final.
Well, the way it fell is you get Argentina and Brazil in the final. That's how it's always designed. It's like the Gold Cup. It's designed for the U.S. and Mexico to play in the final.
Yep.
That's how these regions are because it's money, it's corrupt.
It's also hard when there's only 10 teams in your region.
Yeah, that as well. You have to bring 6 of us. But I'm going Uruguay. I'm spoiling CONMEBOL's plans here. I like this Uruguay team a lot. Again, what Bielsa's doing, I'm really impressed with. I'm not as impressed with this Brazil team. I've said that from the get. I think they're good. I think they'll get to the semifinals, which is bare minimum for them, I think. But I think Uruguay's got enough about them to win this game. I really do. Again, I like the attack that Uruguay has, and I like their defense as well. I really do. I think Brazil's got better goalkeeper. They've got more exciting wingers to say. I mean, you got Vinny. You could play Gabriel Martinelli. You have Rafinha. You bring in Endrick up top. But I'm still going to back Uruguay in this game. Could be completely wrong, obviously, with any of these predictions we've made. But I really like this Uruguay team, and I just see them reaching the final.
I like that. Interesting. Jason, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, like we were saying before we started, I can see either of these teams winning. As Jackson said, I can see them beating Brazil. It just made it clear, like for Argentina to make it to the final, that Messi tax is really starting to hit. But like you said, it's going to be a close game. I see Brazil winning. Yeah, Uruguay is in great form. You got to give what the federations are going to want. They're going to want Argentina and Brazil in the final to make the money. But it wouldn't shock me if Uruguay does make it to the final. Like I said, they're going to be the clear third, and it would not shock me if they do come out on top of this game.
Yeah, I'm leaning Uruguay personally. I can see Brazil doing it, and I see where it's all lined up. But like Jackson, you were saying, I like this Uruguay defense.
Mm-hmm.
Between the likes of Mateus Oliveira for Napoli, whether it's, Ronald Araujo of Barcelona, Jose Jimenez, Atletico Madrid. There's also a couple guys that are playing for Flamengo, who's one of the best teams in Brazil. They have Guillermo Barella. They have Mateus Mina, who are playing for Flamengo. They have a couple guys in the midfield who are playing in Brazil. It just seems like one of those things that it's Copa America first. We see crazy stuff happen in Copa America every single year. Some surprise team makes a magical run 3 years ago when it was the one in 21. Peru and Colombia both made the semifinal. Promptly ended up losing to Brazil and Argentina. But before that, we saw Chile go back-to-back. We've seen other teams make surprise runs. It's just been one of those wild tournaments like the African Cup of Nations. You never know what the hell is really going to happen. For that reason, just pure chaos. I think Luis Suarez bites somebody, gets a handball, and scores the winner all in the same game for Uruguay.
I think we should give Uruguay a little more respect too, though. I mean, they've got 6 more Copa America titles than Brazil.
Yep.
So, I mean, time is Argentina on that.
And I'll say that's part of my reasoning of why I thought Chile would finish second in the group over Canada is they find ways to do it every single tournament. They find ways to get points against these other South American teams, and they just know how to play this kind of football. But that makes our final the battle for I think it's the 19th title, if I'm not mistaken.
For who?
Between Argentina and Uruguay. Wouldn't that be the battle for the 19th?
Well, they both are on 15, I think.
No, battle for the 16th title.
Yeah, it's the battle for the 16th.
But who gets it? Jason, I'll let you start this one out.
For when I was doing the group preview, I actually put in my prediction that Argentina was going to win the whole thing. My final, I saw them against Brazil, but even against Uruguay, I still see them winning. I put they're going to repeat as the champions because they won in 2021, and then again winning the World Cup. They're in great form. It's the same players from the Copa América 21, and then same players from the World Cup. Same players, head for head. Yeah, there's some questionable spots where Argentina could be better at that Uruguay has, but at the end, Argentina is going to win. They're going to get the 16th, and now they're going to have the most Copa Americas.
I like it. Jackson?
It's Messi, who now plays for Inter Miami, playing in Copa America in the U.S.
Well, not just the U.S. Did you see where the final is?
Miami.
Yep.
Which was put there for one reason and one reason only.
Luis Suarez, his fellow Inter Miami teammate.
Of course. No, but all jokes aside, it's his to win. This is his tournament to win. This is his swan song. Because even if he does go to the next World Cup, Argentina won't win it. So this is his send-off. This is his swan song. This is how he ends his international career, I think. I don't think he makes it to the next World Cup, although wouldn't be shocked at this point. But they win it. This is designed for him to win it. It just feels like everything's fallen into place for Argentina to win it. I don't think they have any trouble, really, until they get to this final, realistically. I think that, Messi's going to take care of business. Argentina wins the Copa. It's designed this way. Let's give them what they want. Let's give the people what they want. Let's give Argentina their 16th. Let's push them one ahead of Uruguay.
Yeah, I agree. I think Argentina gets it done. I think Messi gets it done. I think this goes to extra time. I could even see this going to penalties because it does seem like that happens quite often, and we haven't had a penalty shootout yet in any of our predictions. And I think it's similar to the World Cup where Messi steps up, the boys get behind him, and they win on a penalty shootout after Emiliano Martinez makes a couple great saves of Uruguay shooters.
Yeah, if they go to pens, Argentina wins any game in penalties thanks to Emi Martinez.
Exactly.
Any single game.
Guess we have the other one. We don't really need to give much thought, but it is still here. Mexico-Brazil third-place game, the most meaningless game in sports.
Give me Brazil.
Yeah.
Give me Brazil.
There we have it. So we have it. Our winner of the Copa America through our voting is Argentina and Lionel Messi. I don't think that's too much of a surprise. I'm going to stop sharing. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's designed, like you've said many times tonight, Jackson, it's designed for Argentina to win. It's designed for Messi to go out on a huge international trophy, his third consecutive. It's just meant to be. And boy, do I hope it's not. I would love to see Uruguay win it if that's the final. I also wouldn't mind a Brazil-Argentina final just because you know that is going to be pure chaos, as they always are. Who knows? Maybe we don't even get a final if anything happens like last when those two teams played in Brazil a couple of years ago and the deportation agents came out onto the field and stopped the play.
That was absurd.
But who knows? Anything can happen when those two teams play, but realistically, it is what it is. We'll see Argentina's journey to the final start tomorrow. Imagine the scenes if Canada does what Saudi Arabia did to them.
That'd be awesome.
Game of the World Cup. Canada comes out, Alphonso Davies, 10 minutes in, just rockets one home. We'll see. Boys, any final thoughts? Any other players or anything you want to shout out that you think you're going to have a strong tournament, maybe surprising some people? But
I could see Endrick announcing himself. He's already kind of announced himself, but I mean more so to the masses rather than the actual fanatics. I think this could be where he's like, this would be unfair, but where the Pele comparisons really start coming.
I think if Brazil's to win it, it's because of him.
Yeah, off the bench, I think, especially from the start. But yeah, I agree.
I see Argentina getting like 3 or 4 penalties on the way to the final. They get a bunch of penalties.
Yeah, probably. It'd be on brand.
I can see it. It's kind of like the Netherlands when they made the World Cup final.
It's kind of like Argentina when they made the World Cup final.
Shit. Yeah, you're right there as well. Seems like a lot of stuff gets decided by some very dodgy penalties.
Hey, bro, it's Congo, it's FIFA, it's all just mafia.
Sign me up for whatever happens. I'm here for it. Can't wait. Copa America gets underway tomorrow. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jackson. As always, boys, been a pleasure. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button. Make sure you tune into our other episodes that we'll have coming out as the tournament goes. Same as the European Championships tournament. Go check out our episode from last week, the one Jackson and I did. No, we're a week in to the Euros, but hey, we still preview the rest of the group stage kind of stuff, and we preview all of the knockout rounds. So check out that. Check out all the written previews all 3 of us have done. Shout out Jason and Jackson for most of the Copa America stuff. So
I got 5 more to do.
Hey,
we're cooking.
You guys are going to have a lot of reading to do before the match starts tomorrow night. I want to say it's 8 o'clock Eastern time. Let's go. Copa America's here. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.